Good evening and welcome to today's show. Now, sometimes the past can hold a lot of painful memories and feelings of failure, regrets, or even guilt. But we really don't want you to feel that way this new year. So stay tuned because we're going to be giving you tips on how to use the past to your benefit. And we'll also be showing you a video of our visit to the BBC Club to film some artists who only write uplifting music. And we also have on special guests Anton Smith and Jane McCartney later on, so make sure you stay tuned. But first of all, of course, we have our news section, this time with the lovely Rihanna. Hello.
Hello everyone.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good today.
Let's ask you about today's topic. Have you got any comments about that, like learning from the past?
Ooh, depends what we're learning from. Like everything in general.
Yeah.
I think it's...
Have you ever been stuck in the past, for example? Maybe things that have gone wrong for you or...
Yeah.
You have, yeah?
I have, and it kind of made me afraid to try new things. Because then I thought, well, because I failed before, then I'm going to fail again. So stuck in that time zone. But it takes a lot of courage to kind of break out of it.
It does.
So,
but you did it?
Yeah, I did.
Well done.
Because there's no point of being stuck in the past, really. I mean, we move forward, not backwards. So
yeah,
I had to just take that leap.
Okay, but for the news now, what did you have for us today?
Yes, it's a milestone actually. These best friends, they beat the, I don't know if I'm going to get the numbers right, 250,000 odds. They've been friends since they were 3 years old, went to the same primary school, same secondary school, same college, they did the same courses. And now they've both given birth to baby boys in the same hospital,
oh gosh,
2 hours apart.
Oh my gosh. Now, was it planned? Did they plan on
No,
getting
they
pregnant
didn't
at the
even
same
know
time?
that they were pregnant together. They had no idea.
Oh, come on. Oh, look at that. They look alike.
They do. I think
Don't you think
it's
they look
cute.
alike?
It's sweet. I mean, it is a big odd.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen all the time.
No.
But
they must have been kind of talking to each other. I'd
and
love
kind
to
of
have a baby
yeah.
soon, and wouldn't it be nice?
I mean, they've known each other for 28 years.
That's amazing, isn't it?
I think that's beautiful.
Because a lot of friendships don't last that long, do they?
I know, no one...
You have sort of friendships that you have for a time and it kind of serves a purpose for that time. And there's others that you sort of hold on to for quite a while, but that's quite a long time.
I think it's lovely to have friends, you know, a friendship that's built for 28 years. You're practically sisters. Forget the friendship, you're family now.
Yeah.
So that is lovely. Oh, imagine while you're screaming, she's screaming with you. I had to throw that in there.
Your pain.
Never mind the pain, baby's coming. But, you know, I think that's pretty cute.
Yeah.
Now, this next news is, how do I put this? Okay, so vitamin C, we, you know, drink it, flu season and all that, and it's supposed to fight against the cold. So what if I told you that you can now bring that into the shower with you?
I would want to know a bit more.
Yes, well, it's a new shower head with a vitamin C antidote like connected to it. Oh. So you would shower and have that vitamin C all over you, and apparently it gives you better skin, better hair, better everything.
That's very unusual.
It's weird.
So it attaches to the shower and you just...
It's like those little you know when you get those Bristol thingies, jugs? So it's more or less the same thing, but now you just put the vitamin C capsules and it makes you healthy from head to toe, literally.
And what tests have they done on that?
Well,
it actually works?
I don't know about tests, but it kind of fights away the chlorine and it helps you like have less dandruff in your hair, just being healthy.
And you can't just use that as a shower gel?
No, because it has to pass through, I know a lot of technical terms, but when it passes through the water, the whole shalada, it makes you healthy.
I love the word she just comes up with.
But shalada is
you did make one up earlier. I can't remember what you said, but we were talking just before the show.
It was fragile. You know when you feel fragile, but not so much, so you're a bit fragile.
Okay, all right. I think we're going to have Rihanna's dictionary.
I know, I should produce one. I really should. I mean, they do have a slang dictionary. Why can't we have a Rihanna's dictionary? It'll be fab. Right, being vain is not just for adults anymore. Oh, no. There's this new thing where it's called a selfie. You take your phone and take a picture of yourself. It's a selfie. So we've had our baby's first selfie.
Oh no.
Little Evie, as her family call her, she knows how to use the iPhone 5. She was playing around with it and recorded a video of herself.
Joking. That was a fluke, must have been.
It must have been, but an iPhone 5 with baby, I mean, she's only 1. She must be very intelligent to know how to work it. Using the camera, made her own little video, pointed around at things, and then smiled, and she did a pout that could give celebrities a run for their money.
Oh my gosh. Do you know what? I think it's quite scary the way, obviously that was just like, she must have just picked up and just pressed the button, obviously. Although you never know sometimes, because the kids are pretty clever, even babies sometimes, they know what they're doing sometimes. But I just think it's scary the way young children could really know their way around iPhones and iPads, and it's like...
But it's not that complicated anymore. Well, way before my time, where mobile phones were like the size of my head, it could be kind of complicated. I mean, if the button doesn't make the buzz, you know the phone is not working. But now everything's so simple. You slide here, it's a camera, it's anything, so you can even film yourself without realizing it. So technology has been simplified if a 1-year-old can work it.
But still, kids
she must be very creative. If I was her mum, I'd be proud. I had a friend staying with me. She had I think her daughter was 6, and I couldn't work out how to put the TV back on. It was on some kind of setting, and I couldn't work out how to put the TV on, and she got the remote control, she did a few things, and it was up. She's 6. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? Scary.
I know. I would, and every time it happened, I would ask her to fix it
for
me.
No, I mean, come on, it's not that hard.
It was. And I'm not that done with technology. It was just something a bit complicated.
Got to learn from the 6-year-old Chrissy, got to learn.
I learn from anyone. The opportunities are out there all the time.
Grab it. But what I find weird is, okay, we have pets. You have the dog, the cat. Some have a horse, but others choose, oh gosh, I don't even want to say it, tarantula.
But that's common.
Why? It's got 8 legs and it's creepy. I mean, imagine having that on your shoulder.
People that really love spiders.
It's scary.
Because I think, to be honest, I think tarantulas, they kind of...
Aren't they lethal?
More than a spider to me, because they're quite sort of thick and like they're furry. So they're almost like a little animal rather than
it's like a small,
insect.
Tiny dog with fur. But
that's what I'm saying. That's why people like them, because they're more sort of, I think they're cuter than like your average spider. They look like a pet rather than a cockroach,
anything involving
for example.
A spider is weird. A spider with fur, and it's just, I mean, Heidi is just fab.
You've just offended half the population now.
I'm so sorry, but I have a fear for things with 8 legs. That
You've been watching I'm a Celebrity, haven't you?
No, I don't even want to watch it because I know they have all these weird things. You put your head where there's bugs. I wouldn't make it. I wouldn't survive. If I was ever asked to go, please don't ever ask me. I wouldn't. I can't. Life in the wild, I won't make it. Yeah. I'm a bit prim and pretty. Anything dirty will kind of run me over. But would you go? Would you be able to hack it with all the challenges that you've done?
I wouldn't eat an insect.
Oh, I wouldn't.
I can't stand cockroaches. I'm all right with around snakes. I'm okay around rats. I'm not scared of them.
If you're ever going to bring a snake on the show...
I have done twice.
I will not come.
2 snakes have been on the show.
If I know there is a snake in the building, I will not come. I won't be here. I can't. I have a fear. It's a fear.
So that would be me if there were cockroaches here, because I can't stand them.
How can you...
They're disgusting. I think that's the only thing that would, if I ever got asked to go on there, that was a thing that would really put me off, because I really can't stand cockroaches. Just one, never mind a whole
clan
of them, yeah.
But dogs I love. I think dogs, puppies are just lovely. They're absolutely lovely. And this man, he's just given a new term to the word puppy love. He knows that his girlfriend, fiance, loves puppies and dogs and all that. So he took her to New York, and she thought they were just going for a walk in the park. And all of a sudden they were surrounded by 16 pugs who had heart-shaped balloons attached to them. And then he went down on one knee and proposed.
I hope we do have a picture, don't we?
Yes,
please tell me we have a photo, because I really want to see this. Oh, look at that.
And they just came, so it was like 1 and then 2, and then she was like, hold on a minute, what's going on? Why do they have these hearts attached to them? And he proposed
that's lovely.
to her. I think it's lovely. I mean,
how would you like to be proposed to, Rihanna?
Oh my gosh. I don't know.
We might as well get it out there.
Oh,
even though
if you're watching,
even if you don't, or she says she doesn't have a boyfriend, but you know, in case your future boyfriend, fiance, husband is watching.
I don't know. It would have to be any kind of surprise. I love surprises, good surprises. Probably with roses, something that will just take me off guard. I can't know, well, I don't have a clue about a lot of things, but I really cannot have a clue. I would not like to have a clue about anything. It'd have to be special. Roses have to be involved, red roses and calla lilies. I love them.
It's just a room full of flowers then for you?
No, I don't know, perfect scenery, maybe outside, moonlight. Okay, I'm going a bit too far, but I don't know, something like that.
That's nice.
Yeah.
All right, so if your
Get
future boyfriend, Rihanna's future boyfriend is watching, there's her request to get married. Rihanna, thank you so much, my lovely.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again next time.
Will do.
Okay, so do stay tuned because we will be speaking about the past, which is something that affects many, many people, but we'll be talking about how you can use the past to your benefit to actually change your future. So do join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the show, and today we're going to be speaking about the past. We all have one. Some people's past are very colourful, others very painful. But at the end of the day, we have the power to change our future, and that's what we're going to be talking about today on the show. And I have with me now counsellor Anton Smith. Hello, Anton. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Chrissy. Good to be here.
Now, you have a lot to say about this subject, don't you, Anton?
Well, I hope so, because we've got a lot of time to fill.
Okay, so now of the past, obviously, people go through things maybe that they don't expect, whether it be a relationship or a career situation, work situation. Maybe they tried to set up a business and it failed. So they go through things maybe that they weren't quite expecting, and then when something does happen, it kind of knocks them for six, doesn't it? And then all sorts of things start going wrong for them. What would you say is sort of the main characteristic of a person that lets the past affect them, would you say?
I think it's in all of us.
Really?
I mean, we get affected by the past in a variety of different ways. We might be affected by the past in a positive way or a negative way. You never kind of really know. But I think in terms of the sort of format of the programme and the subject matter of the programme, I think it's important to say where I come from in all this, which is that there's no such thing in my book as a negative experience or a positive experience. What we have are experiences. It's up to us as to whether we turn it into something positive for ourselves or whether we create a negative situation from it or have negative feelings about it. There's a very important thing for me in my past over the last 20 or 30 years, in so much that I've realised that I was very trapped in my past in terms of...
Can you tell, would you like to tell the viewers about some of the things that happened to you?
Sure.
He's very open, by the way, everybody, so I really like that about him.
I was very much trapped in my past, and the thing that attracted me to becoming a counsellor, I'd been in business for a long time. What attracted me to becoming a counsellor was because I began to understand that there was a lot of repeat behaviour which kept getting me into trouble. And I couldn't understand what was going on. And I realised that my personality and my emotional setup wasn't quite right, and so on, whatever quite right means. So what I started to do was look at who I am and the patterns that had formed who I am. And I realised that what I did was that I had a very negative self-view and a very negative way of interpreting events around me. I also had a sort of sabotaging instinct in me as well, which I didn't recognise, but I kept making the wrong moves, but thinking they were the right things to do.
You just couldn't see at the time, you couldn't see anything.
The mind, particularly the conscious mind, is a very tricky thing. In so much that it will interpret something as being new, whereas in fact it's an old behaviour. And you see this in addiction all the time. I do specialise in addiction as well. And what you tend to see is people believing that this time it will be different. So what people are trapped into is a cycle of repeat behaviour, which is an illness. You know, addiction is an illness, in my book at any rate, and many other people's. So people get trapped in a cycle of behaviour which just simply is sabotaging their lives and so on. And they either get to a rock bottom and do something about it and get into therapy or recovery of some sort or another, or they go on and possibly die. You know, if it's a substance addiction.
And the thing is, it's like everyone else around them can seem to spot it and can see the pattern.
Yeah.
And it's like, no matter how much you try to help that person and say, look, can't you see what's happening?
That's right.
Or for example, you're getting into another abusive relationship, can't you see this man or this woman is really controlling?
Yep.
They don't see it.
No.
Or I think some people probably do see it, but they think, well, that's all I deserve. That's all I can get. That's all I'm not, worthy of getting anything better than that.
That's
so
right.
they stay stuck in that. They kid themselves that it's right for them when they themselves they don't have value for.
Exactly.
So it's really, really sad. But let's talk a bit about the addiction since you brought that up first.
Sure. Absolutely.
So obviously, we've just started a new year, and there are probably many people that have had a few problems with addictions of different kinds, whether it be alcohol or anything at all, gambling. And they want to start fresh this year. They think, you know what, I want to put that behind me. It's hurting my family. It's hurting me. It's destroying, it's hurting my finances. What advice would you give people that want to make a fresh start and to be able to actually stick to it this time?
If they really want to do something about it, and an addict of whatever sort has to get to a point where he or she realises that they need to do something about it and they want to do something about it. Which means that a lot of the denial has got out of the way, because they're ready to make some sort of recovery from the addiction. There are a number of different courses that people can take. They can go into therapy. They can hook up with an addiction agency or something like that. There are clinics. There are like the Priory and places like that, although that's not within most people's affordability. But then there are loads and loads of 12-step programs for virtually every single addiction, modelled on the AA model, which was the first, and so on. And they are incredibly effective, and they don't cost anything, And what people get from those is a sense of identification, which you don't necessarily get from other programs of recovery. Because the addict tends to believe that he or she is the only one who's experiencing the feelings of isolation and desolation and disappointment and sabotage and so on.
This is a thing, and it's a sense of guilt as well.
Oh,
in some
guilt,
sense,
shame.
Because you're not, for anyone watching now that is going through this, you're not the only one. And also, you're not the only one that's been through it and has completely changed their life around as well. So if other people have done it, you can do it as well.
Right.
And I think sometimes it just feels worse when you're in a situation you think, I'm the only one that is going through this. No one's going to understand what I'm feeling. If I try to explain to someone, they're going to look at me and maybe want to stay away from me because they don't want that negativity. There's all these things that go through your mind when there's so many people going through the same thing. And you're not the only one, and you're not strange, you're not weird just because you're going through a certain problem. Things happen to us. My situation was depression. It happened to me. I wasn't expecting it to happen, but it did, and I got over it in the end. And I'm happy today, so our viewers can be as well.
I think that's a really good example. I mean, whether it's addiction, which has its own element of depression in it, but if you take something like depression, for instance, if one can see it as a good thing, it's a signal to make a change. It's a signal to take action. And if we can see, if you like, emotional conditions, mental health issues, whatever we like to call them, I don't mean the psychotic, the really serious mental health things, but I mean the depressions, the addictions, those sort of things. If we can see those as signals to make changes, and we can regard them then as positive things in our lives, because we can then get a positive experience from them. I mean, my depression was exactly of that nature, when I kept going into the same situations, not realising quite what I was doing, but believing I was doing something different. Then I realised that there were emotional things which were dominating the way I behaved below my subconscious, which I didn't realise was happening. And then uncovering all that stuff has given me a completely different different aspect
That's what
of
people
me.
are sometimes afraid of.
Oh,
is
it's
to
scary.
Go,
It's
to
scary.
go deep.
Yeah.
It's like the tendency for us human beings is like when we have a problem, we want to try to forget about it. So that's where sometimes people do start getting addicted because they're trying to forget another problem, and we tend to kind of brush it aside, sweep it under the carpet. I don't want to deal with it. If I think about it, the worse I will feel. But the thing is, we need to think about it. We need to actually see where it's all coming from. And that's how we start to find a solution. And if you can't do that, normally a person can't really do this on their own if it's very serious. But if you can get help to do that. Yeah. Be it counselling, be it something else, you can get the help that you need, so you're not sort of in that dark place by yourself, you get the support that you need, and you can come out of that, definitely.
And there's an author by the name of H. Scott Peck, who you may have heard of. He wrote a book called The Road Less Travelled, which was a sort of new take on relationships and so on, and he's written other books since. But one of the books that he wrote is called The Distant Drum, which I'd recommend to anybody, as I would The Road Less Travelled, because it talks about relationship building, community building, and so on. And one of his central themes is that crises are good for us, on the basis that unless we overcome crises, whether it's the pain of birth, infancy, childhood, and all those sort of things, if we don't face those things, or we're not supported through those things, we don't do any emotional growing or spiritual growing or any other form of growing. So
we do.
It comes back to this thing like depression, addiction are good for us because they're crises, and if we're in the state of wanting to do something about it, overcome it, we make extraordinary.
And please, we're not of course saying that these things are a good situation for you to stay in. Obviously that's we're saying exactly the opposite of that. We use those experiences to, to change your life around, to say, you know what, I've had enough of this, I'm going to do something about it. But Anton, you're going to stay with us, because we're going to be speaking about different subjects tonight, so do stay tuned.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the show, and now we're going to be showing you a video that we recorded at the BBC Club of artists who only write songs with positive lyrics. Let's take a look.
Tonight I've come down to the BBC Club in Oxford Circus to watch Storm 5 Management Showcase and speak to some of the special artists that are going to be performing tonight. So what are you guys called as a group together?
We're called The Gentlemen.
Why is that? Because you treat the ladies well?
We try to, yeah. I think it is as boring as that, as the story behind the name, is that we're nice, or we try to be good people.
I'm falling in love with your little English voice. How like your English voice. I started to stammer.
How do you think that music has changed your life? How were you before you sort of got into writing and making music to now?
For me, I think music made me come out of myself. I was quite a shy kid at school, and through being on stage and having to force myself to perform, I think it's changed who I am into a bit more confident person, actually.
She was a New York girl as it happened on the streets of Manhattan. And she.
So girls, what's your names individually and as your collaboration together?
So Adrienne and Fern.
And together?
Daughters of Davis.
Cool. When did you guys get together?
Wow, probably for about 7 years ago now, but we're sisters, so we've sang together since we're about this big. And then we got a camper van a couple of years ago. We sold everything, got this van, and about 2 years ago we just lived in this, and we met our management on the road, and that's kind of when we started taking it probably a bit more serious.
Me turn around again and throw you out the car. Do you think that without me you would have gotten this far?
Yeah. What do you think are the most valuable lessons you've learned with your musical journey so far?
Don't get in a van and live in it. Well, don't give up though is a big thing. Yeah, no, because like even the struggles, it's so worth it, because we've just had so many things. Like, at one point we're thinking about giving up, something would happen. Actually I remember Fern was like upset one time, like pretty much crying. I was dragging her up to Manchester saying, come on, we just play this one more gig. And we had this meeting with our management then, and if we hadn't have done that, like, that could have been the end. But you know, it's good to keep pushing through, just that keep going.
You make some tea because I'm starting to fade. See, I've done all the dishes and I put them all away. I didn't really notice there was like 2 left on the side. Of course not, it's not like you to criticize.
So Philippa Hannah, how long have you been writing and performing music?
I was kind of born into it because my dad is a singer, so I got dragged on stage when I was about 2, I think, and it was a disaster because I went off crying. But I've been on stage pretty much ever since, and I started writing again from quite a young age, making up silly songs and stuff, and then more seriously when I was about 13.
With the poison that one I was full, I took a bite then fell into a sleep that lasted years. Bitten and discarded, I was bruised and undesired on the floor, from skin to core.
How has music had a role in your life?
It's everything really, like outside of my faith, which is really important to me. Music is like everything. It's this thing that doesn't change. You know, you can always go back to it when you're on your own, when you're upset, when you're down, when you're happy. It's just like so important. It's like a universal language.
Do you think it's kept you on a positive road throughout your life?
Yeah, definitely. When I was a teenager, I had some tough times, and I think if I hadn't have had aspirations to be a musician, I think I probably would have gone completely off the rails. But I did always have in my head, I want a career in music, so I need to kind of keep it together.
But who knows what's underneath? Just 'cause somebody shows you kindness when you're weak, don't share your heart till it's complete.
I heard something about you setting up some sort of charity. What's that about?
It's still in embryonic stages, but it's the Raggedy Doll Foundation, and I have a song called Raggedy Doll, which is about a doll that doesn't like itself, and it's always comparing itself to the other toys in the nursery. And I felt like it's so important to like affirm children when they're little, let them know how important they are, how special, how unique. And so what we're doing with the foundation is we're getting groups of people to make rag dolls. So we're helping them, we're resourcing them with patterns and stuff, but to make a rag doll with love and give it to a child as a message of you were amazingly made.
That's really great to see. But let's now talk about career and businesses and employment, things like that, because that is something that scares many people, especially, for example, if you've lost your job, maybe you were made redundant last year, you're facing the new year unemployed, and you've tried to find jobs, you've tried to make a way for yourself, try to improve your finances, and maybe you're in debt now because you haven't been working. Christmas maybe was terrible for you. And maybe you're afraid of the future. You're thinking, do you know what, I've lost my confidence. I can't see myself getting something really good or as good as my last job. What can I do? Anton, what can they do? Because that is a scary situation to be in, especially the Christmas that we've just had as well.
I've experienced that. I mean, not in the recent past, but...
You've gone through quite a lot, haven't you?
Yeah. Great deal.
It's so lovely that you come on TV to speak about things.
Well, I think it's so important, you know, because if I can't actually feed back what I've experienced and the fact that I've come through life with a lot of, you know, things happening in one way or another.
Who knows, Anton, maybe there are people watching now that are in a really bad situation, and one day very soon you're going to be on this sofa talking about your positive experience that you've had because things have changed around for you. That's what I believe.
I mean, I don't hope there are people out there having unpleasant experiences, for want of a better word. But I hope they get something out of it from what I was saying, having been through the stuff that I went through. But I mean, I'm going back now nearly 40 years when it happened to me. I'd started my first business. I was very naive. I made a lot of mistakes. And I believed that the money I made right at the beginning, I was going to, you know, keep on making. And I hadn't budgeted on the fact that sometimes business conditions changed and go down, and that's what happened in that particular industry, the packaging industry. And I was left high and dry. I nearly lost my house. I was in a bad state. It was a very depressing time. It was the first time I'd ever experienced having to sign on, you know, which I found
How did that feel?
humiliating. You know, not so much from being in a line signing on and so on, but just humiliating internally, and so much that I felt so shameful about not succeeding. You know. So,
which you weren't a failure. It's just the circumstances that had come up.
And this word,
and that's what people feel. I'm a failure because something's gone wrong. I'm a failure, but things happen, and we have to get over it. And we just have to keep moving on.
This word failure is such an abusive term that is,
isn't it?
You know, bandied about. You know, you're a failure. You haven't succeeded. You know, all that sort of thing, and so on. And it comes back to what we were saying earlier on, which is, you know, that if you can make something out of a, let us say, disappointing situation, you're on the road to strengthening yourself and empowering yourself. I liken it to, you're going for a walk in the country or maybe a run in the country, and the path is barred by a gate, which you can't open. So you back off a bit, you run up to the gate and you leap over it. What do you feel? You feel empowered. I've crossed that barrier, you know? And that's what this whole thing about life is, and overcoming crises. I was very fortunate in so much that I suppose somewhere in my personality was a very deep feeling that I don't have to stay like this. You know, I don't have to stay having gone bust and nearly losing my house and all that sort of thing. And I phoned up a company who was prepared to take me on and take the remnants of the business on. You know, they paid £1 for it and employed me, you know, and then things did get really, really good, you know, for a long time, and it was good. I made a considerable amount of money, and, you know, got all the usual sort of things that one associates with that, you know, and so on. And then I gave it up, and I went into other things.
But you got through that bit. It's interesting what you said. You said there was a little voice or feeling inside that, you know, you couldn't stay where you were. And I think everyone has that, to be honest. Because I remember when I was really depressed, but on one side it was like, I've lost complete hope. I can't see how I'm going to get out of this situation, how I'm ever going to be happy. But deep down inside, there was this little voice that was saying to me, you know what, it's not meant to be this way. This can't be it. This can't be how life is meant to be. And that's kind of what kept me going and kept me looking for help until I got the right help, that I was able to overcome everything. So, and I think everyone has that little voice, because, you know, you weren't born to be suffering like this, if I can use the word suffer. You weren't born to have to be going through these things. You're born to be happy. I really believe that. You're born to have fun. You're born to fulfill your dreams. All
Reach
of those
your
things. So there's something, exactly. And there's something inside of you that's telling, if you're going through a problem, there's something inside telling you, you know what, it's not meant to be this way. You've just got to listen to that voice and use that, because that's the strength that you have inside of you to change your situation, to help you look for a way out as well. But the problem is, many people, it's there, but they drown it out. They let all the negative voices come and like just drown out this one voice that's saying, look, you can do it, you can make it. And, you know, if you're watching tonight and you feel that way, please listen to that voice and get in touch with us as well. We're here to help you to find the right help as well.
That's the most important thing. You know, when you're talking about people who had lost their jobs or lost their business and so on, this is where things like coaching, mentoring, counselling even, all those sort of things are there to help support you, or whoever it is, into doing something which is going to fulfill you. And I think the other thing is that what that can often do is to remove the entrapment that we place upon ourselves, you know, which is, well, I'm only capable of doing this, or my mum wants me to do that, you know, and all those sort of influences that we carry around within ourselves can be very, very, they're deeply embedded, so that we don't believe we can maybe become an artist or a musician and things like that, you know. So,
but we're changing those beliefs, Anton.
Sorry,
we're changing those beliefs right now.
And that's the thing.
And we need to go to a quick break. The time's really flying by today, isn't it, Anton? Okay, do join us after this break, because we are going to continue this conversation. We're going to speak about something that maybe many of you are going through, and that's maybe keeping you stuck in the past. So do join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back. Now, before we continue with our conversation with Anton, let's take a look at this video. I'm here with Lisa King today from Refuge, and she's just going to be telling us a bit about what Refuge does, first of all. So, Lisa, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview with us. What is Refuge and what do you actually do?
Thank you. Refuge is a national domestic violence charity, so we work around the country to provide a range of domestic violence services to support women who are experiencing domestic violence. And on any given day, our services are supporting 1,600 women and children.
Now, when you say to raise awareness, is it the case that there's many women that are in an abusive relationship and they don't actually realise that they're in one?
Yeah, sadly that is exactly the case. Very few people actually understand what domestic violence is and can identify with domestic violence. Lots of people can identify with the physical, kind of the broken bones, the black eyes, the bruises, but very few people understand that domestic violence is a much bigger subject than that. It's all about power and control. And one of the techniques of control that a perpetrator often uses is to be purposefully charming one minute and angry and raging the next. And we describe that as a Jekyll and Hyde type personality. And that behaviour is very disarming and confusing.
I noticed there's a photo there of Princess Diana. Can you tell us what that's about?
Yeah, Princess Diana very kindly came to Refuge in 1983 when the name for our organisation changed from Chiswick Women's Aid to Refuge. Princess Diana was a contact of my boss, Sandra Hawley, and she has taken Refuge from that one building to what is now the largest domestic violence specialist provider in the country.
I know you've had loads and loads of success stories, but is there any particular one that's really caught your attention that stood out for you?
Yeah, I've heard lots and lots of stories, but I was particularly touched by one that Refuge received just a couple of weeks ago. The lady who emailed said, "I just wanted to say a very huge thank you for the support I received from the helpline on 2 occasions over 2 years ago. I still visit your website now as a comfort blanket to remind me that I made the right choice in splitting from my husband. He still to this day blames me for everything. He treated me with little respect, and I'm still unable to bring myself to tell my family the details of how he called me dull, boring and inhibited. He accused me of wearing too much makeup, screamed at me so much that my daughter used to cry herself to sleep, constantly threatened to tell my employer what I was really like, and the list goes on. He never once hit me, but the emotional and psychological fear was terrifying. Please don't ever underestimate the power of the work Refuge does. You give a voice and you're reassuring, and that's what I needed. It took 12 months of living hell, even after I rang to get the courage to leave, but I did it in the end. A further 16 months down the line and life is tough. I'm a single mum of 2 with a full-time job, but nobody shouts or threatens. My home is my own and I'm safe. At Christmas I don't buy cards, I donate the money to Refuge, and I shall do that from every year. You know, I've been doing my job for 9 years and I'm really touched, and I think that's really powerful, and that says so much. You know, someone who was alone and isolated reached out, she was brave and courageous, she got help, and her life is different now and she's safe and she's rebuilding a home for herself and her daughter.
If you are in this situation as well, do get in touch with Refuge. The details also will be on our website, chrissybshow.tv. Don't feel like you're alone, and remember, domestic violence isn't just about physical abuse, as you've been explaining to us, so please do get in touch if you are going through this situation. Lisa, thank you so much for the interview.
Thanks very much.
Okay, that was really powerful, wasn't it? That letter from that lady, and that's the thing, she reached out. And sometimes people have been through so much in their past, even maybe they were abused as a child or they got into abusive relationships and they think that's what relationships are meant to be like, or I don't deserve any better. I was actually speaking at an event about abuse at the weekend, and it was shocking as a lot of women, because the audience was mainly women, some of them spoke and how they blame themselves for abuse and they feel guilty. They said, it must have been something I did. There was another lady that was speaking, her husband just cheated on her constantly and really put her down. And then instead of seeing that as something really wrong that he was doing to her, she was blaming herself and saying, oh, maybe it's because I don't look after myself enough, or I'm not pleasing him, I'm not cooking nice meals for him that he likes. And, you know, it was horrible, really horrible things that people go through. And I think a lot of it is they feel guilty for no reason, and they get stuck in their past because of that. It's terrible.
Yeah. I think it's a really good example of what we were talking about earlier on, in terms of a place where people can get support and identification with other people in similar situations. And that's being together in a community that has or is experiencing the same things is really empowering for people, because they then feel that A, they're not the only one, and B, they can find a solution.
That's right. Now I just wanted to talk a little bit about guilt, because obviously there's two types of guilt, I would say. There's the one that I think serves a purpose. So for example, if we do something wrong, and this is something I was speaking about the weekend, if we do something wrong, guilt is a way of telling us, look, hang on a minute, you're hurting other people, you're hurting yourself, you're doing something that you need to change. Or say, for example, you're a mum or dad and you spend so long at work, you start to feel guilty. So that's a signal for you to actually do something about it and change that situation, because you will be hurting people and hurting relationships. Then there's the other kind of guilt that we just spoke about, where you've been through something that wasn't your fault, someone's mistreating you, and you feel guilty about it. And that's the kind of guilt that you have to say, you know what, I'm not going to feel guilty about something that I didn't cause, that isn't my fault, and I haven't done anything wrong. And I think it's very important to distinguish between the two. One serves a purpose. One will, you know, in a way is a positive thing because it will help you to change and to develop, which we all need to do. The other one is just there to put you down and to make you feel bad about yourself. And we can't be stuck in that situation. That's another thing, that if you are going through that, you should speak to someone. At this event, so many ladies came and spoke to us afterwards and say how they identified with it, how they've been feeling guilty for no reason, how they were abused. And it was so nice the way people just opened up, and because they heard other people speaking. And that's the beauty of it, that when you hear others talking about their experiences, that says, okay, so I'm not the only one, I can move past this, which is really important.
There are those two different types of guilt. Guilt is the sort of, you know, the conscience thing, you know. And it's a big thing to admit you're wrong. You know, none of us like to admit we're wrong, you know.
It's hard.
But it's very healing, and it's very empowering to go to somebody
and
say, I had an example of it the other day, you know, when I chastised somebody for doing something wrong, and actually it was my mistake. You know, it was an innocent thing in a swimming pool. It was just, I was swimming up and down, and this guy swam towards me. I said, "You're swimming in the wrong direction." He said, "No, look at the sign." Oh, right, okay. You know, but I did apologise.
Yeah, that's nice.
But the other sort of guilt is the much more damaging form.
I think it's evil. We'll call it evil.
It is, and it can be very deeply embedded. You know, if you've been told you're a naughty boy all your life, you know, when something happens and it's not your fault, you're likely to feel, that's me. You know, I always bring these things. I'm always upsetting people. I'm always doing that, and all that sort of thing, and so on. And to get out of that, again, you need support, and you need someone or a group of people to say no. You know, it's not your fault. You are not a failure. You're not a bad person, you know, and all that sort of stuff, you know. And what happens also is that we can be mistaken in believing that the person who is in, if you like, as we identify in the superior position, that they are always going to be in the right. No, they're not. Have you ever come across transactional analysis? Do you know? It's a kind of like a sort of triangle of reference where we can put ourselves in the corner of a triangle, one of the corners of the triangle. One of them is in the adult position, which is the mature, sensible, right in the middle, okay position. The other two positions are the sort of punishing parent, or, you know, punishing person, and the other is the child, you know, who, whatever. Now, what happens in human interactions a lot, and I use this a lot in my work, in my professional, the business stuff that I do. What happens is that we tend not to put ourselves in the position of being the adult. So we're either the child or the dominant parent, dominant teacher, or dominant other, and so on. That's a very, very sketchy thing about what it is. But if you look at the interactions that you have, if you look at the interactions that you have around you, the way you are in a relationship,
You can see.
See how you're behaving in it. Are you the child? Are you the punishing person, the dominator? Or are you the nice, mature, emotionally balanced adult? How many of those are there?
That's where we're trying to get our viewers to be. And you know, it's something that we all need to strive to get to, because we do have our ups and downs sometimes. Things happen, you know. We have to adjust, we have to learn, we have to develop. So, but what I'd like to leave our viewers with tonight, Anton, we don't want you to look at your past anymore, to put yourself down, to tell yourself you're not good enough. We'd like you to look at your past, as we want to as well, our past, as a learning curve, as something that we can learn from. If we made mistakes, okay, I'm going to not do that. I won't make that mistake again. I'm going to change. But also what I'd like our viewers to do tonight as well, start planning your future. Start writing down the things that you want to see this year. And I'm not talking about resolutions, you know, those loose resolutions that everyone makes so that they never stick to. I'm talking about serious things that you really want to achieve in your life. Because the thing is, if you don't start sort of planning things and even believing that you can have anything better, you'll always be stuck in your past. So make a list. If it's a relationship, write down the kind of person that you want to meet, for example. If it's a job, write down the kind of job that you'd love to have, and then start working towards it step by step. And that when your mind is focused on the future and on getting something better, you'll see that the past is just going to become a distant memory. It's not going to be something that will haunt you anymore. It will serve its purpose to, you know, for you to have a new life.
Can I just make one little comment, which is, life is about learning. It's not about self-persecution.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. That's a lovely thing to end with. And they're telling me to end now. We have to stop.
Okay.
But please, guys at home, if you have any questions for us, if you'd like to talk to us about anything, please do email me on chris@chrissybshow.tv. Like I've said, I've been through my fair share of problems, I can tell you, and I've been through many experiences, and I'd love to be able to have a chat with you and to help. And of course, if you want to speak to Anton as well, we can forward the details to him. So, yes. Okay, that's it for today. And do join us again next time on the Chrissy B Show. Thank you so much, Anton, for being here again.
Thank you for watching.
And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye for now.